Chris, a pretty hard-fought battle against a young, up-and-coming side. How do you see that one?
I agree. Yeah, it was tight for most of the game. There was a fair bit happening in the game. Obviously, both teams lost important structural players, good players as well. You know, basically at half-time, and even with the sub rule, it always requires some management from the box, and they always look threatening to us, which is what we expected going into the game. We watch them pretty closely, have respect for some of the people we know from their organisations. So the fact that they're organised and, as said during the week, I looked at them and didn't see too many holes in the way they played, but I saw plenty of threats, and that's kind of the way it played out.
And you mentioned the changes. How's Danger?
I think he's spoken about it, and often this quickly post-game I'm the last to know, so you've probably heard more from him than I have. I had a quick chat to him and our medical staff. It appears to me, and this is always dangerous to say, but it's not serious. It seems a little confusing in some ways, but subbed off with a hamstring, it's not great news. So hopefully the damage can be mitigated there and he doesn't miss too much, but I would be clear if it was a really serious one, which was our fear because he was subbed off pretty quickly. But that wasn't an indication of the severity. It was more that there's something there and not something we should take a risk with, so don't muck around getting Ollie Dempsey into the game.
Do you know how he did it?
Well, that's why it's a little bit strange, because normally hamstrings are done with high force, either running fast or being pushed while you're kicking, that sort of thing, and he wasn't running fast at all. That's why it was really strange for him, because he'd been so damaging early in the game as well. If he was bursting out of the pack, max acceleration, you could understand it, but this one was a bit more innocuous, a bit confusing to him, and generally when it's confusing it's a good sign.
What do you make of his
first? I know. I thought he was one of the key differences between the teams in the first half. I thought he continued the form that he's shown the last month. I thought he was outstanding.
That battle with Dawson in the first half, how do you see that one?
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, it wasn't a surprise to us, and the Crows aren't trying to hide it. You know, Dawson was next to Goey at times, and other good players around the competition in previous games. But his role is certainly not to just be completely negative. He's such a damaging, important player for the Crows. So, yeah, it was interesting. I'm keen to go back and assess it. I don't like declaring victory in these things anyway, but I just, for a split second, you kind of think like a fan, and it's nice to see them going head-to-head a bit. Should be more of it.
Given the injury history over the last few years for Paddy, does that come into account when you look at subbing a player off?
Not really. Injury history, in my opinion, and strictly my opinion, and I'm a fair way down the hierarchy when it comes to injury management. Even these ones are a lot easier for us because the call comes up and it doesn't even go to me. It goes to someone else in our box from the medical staff. He's out, and I do my best not to think about it until post-game. Having said that, in my opinion, the injury history is very relevant when it's a recurrence of a similar issue. And I can't remember Pat doing a hamstring, so I don't think that'll have a big influence. He's had some trouble with a calf, so if it were that, then I think, yeah, we probably would be a bit more cautious, but I think this is one we'll treat as an isolated incident.
You sat in here a lot last year talking about, even though he wasn't getting a game, how important Asava was to you potentially. Here it is. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we had some challenges in game, but we had some challenges coming into the game as well. Lost a number of really important players for us, and I spoke about it a little bit at the start of the year. We looked like we were going okay late in the pre-season, and then we just lost a spate of key defenders. So De Koning's a really important player for us, and again, I don't want it to sound like a victory lap, but I've always had confidence in Asava. And if it were only my decision, there's no way the conversation would have ever been entertained. In my mind, he wasn't leaving. And that wasn't because, or solely because I thought it was the best thing for Geelong. I thought it was the best thing for him, and I was really confident the opportunity would open up. So if you fast forward to today, haven't got Jack Henry, haven't got Sam De Koning. If we didn't have Radigalia, we would have been in real trouble. And I thought I always struggle to work out straight after the game who the most influential players were. I sort of take my time to work through that because that's not my main priority watching the game. Not a priority at all, really. But wow, he took my eye.
How are you feeling about your injury list 7 weeks in, and yesterday you had the presser and gave us an update on 6 or 8 players that are sidelined, and now Paddy adds to that?
Yeah, I'm breaking my own rule here because I'm comparing it to 12 months ago, but it feels a bit similar. I know, Pat, this looks like a hamstring, but we don't have many soft tissue issues. We've got, and it's a bit like last year, we had quite a few injuries to key players, but they were more contact or bad luck kind of injuries. We haven't had a facial fracture for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, and then we have 2 in a couple of weeks. And we're confident that all of those guys, even Sam Menegola, who's probably the slowest of that group, will be back in the back half of the season. So it becomes a matter of trying to scrap enough wins in this part of the year and have confidence when those guys come back. At the very least, it'll add to our depth. But the other benefit we saw last year, which I think we saw snippets of today, is that it gives opportunity to younger players. And when the game was on the line, late in the game, we were so impressed with Mitch Nevitt and Tanner Bruin and Minasava. Kind of speaks for himself a little bit, but we had some crucial centre bounces late in the game, and it was Atkins and Nevitt and Bruin. And that's exciting for us. It's not necessarily by design, but and I know it's easier to say when you've won, but even if we didn't, the silver lining when you have a bit of an injury list to key players is that you see others come through. And I think that's happening around the competition. I shouldn't talk about other teams, but Payne at Brisbane springs to mind. You can kind of sit behind a key defender, for example, and not get your opportunity. And I think Radigali is a bit the same. Like there wasn't a spot for him last year, and it wasn't his fault. It wasn't that he wasn't up to it. It was just that there were a group of players who were doing the job. But again, we sort of forced that door open this year, and we're very thankful that he stayed, and we showed some faith in him right through the pre-season, really.
Can I ask you to break your rule again? Can you talk to me about the Adelaide backline? We were pretty impressed with them, especially given that Nick Murray went out at halftime. Yeah,
Hinge at halftime having to go to Cameron on paper looked like a challenge for him. I thought they did a good job. It was a pretty, even though the conditions ended up being okay, it was a pretty scrappy game. But sometimes that can mean there's not much adventurous ball use, but there are lots of contests ahead of the ball, which in a way can be harder for defenders. And Cameron and Hawkins are a threat. I thought our guys were really important for us. But if your contention is that some slightly unheralded Adelaide backs did a good job, I'd agree with that.
Did your guys know at halftime that Danger wasn't coming back on, and so you didn't have a chance to tell the players at all?
No, it happened in the first minute or so of the third quarter.
Okay.
Is that about right, Lloydie? Somewhere in that.
So Dangerfield started the third quarter?
He did.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did it early in the third quarter, whereas Murray was out before the quarter started or the half started.
And it felt like Max Holmes took responsibility. He stepped up.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I shouldn't have left Max out. Max was probably one of those players in the centre square late, but we've got a lot of faith in Max, and he's still a developing player. But even late last year, he was a really important player for us, and it's just exciting when you group those guys together. If you're a Geelong fan, you can kind of think, oh, I've got a bit of an idea of what it might look like in 4 or 5 years' time, and when you look at them today, you think, yeah, we might be okay.
It was a bit of a different win to the last 4 weeks or so, in that there wasn't really a spurt of a quarter where you absolutely blew the other team off the park. Where do you sort of rate, or how do you sort of rate the win being a little bit different to the last 4 weeks?
Yeah, I think you're right in your observation. We go into most games expecting it to be a bit of a grind, and if we're sort of surprised on the upside, then we take that. But again, I referenced it earlier. When we watched them, we didn't think, if we just get our game right, we'll kick 5 or 6 and the game will be over early. We knew that they'd keep coming. They're an attacking threat, being good around the midfield, and as you spoke about, their defence, if you don't know them well, you will soon. It was more stressful than the last couple of weeks, but there's more stress to come as well. I think my guess is that the last couple of weeks will be the anomaly, not today.
Do you want us to ask you about the Brad Close tackle on Jordan Dawson in the last 5 minutes?
Very good. So, for those that don't know, you're referencing the Mitch Duncan issue where I thought there was a really clear defence. No defence required for this one. This is even... the defence would be really strong, but I don't think it's required. It was, in my opinion, and that's all it is, and it's not a reflection of the decision itself, but had a look at it, very comfortable with it. You?
I'll reserve my judgment.
Very, very good answer. I should say that much more often. And we don't want to have an argument either, do we? Although that would be a good press conference. No. Look, it's a topical issue. Lloydie's sitting up there saying, stop, don't go on. But I get it. But it is, when a player's off balance and he kind of slips and falls into the ground, gets up and is okay. Yeah. Again, we've got the benefit that the umpire doesn't have. We can watch it and take into account everything with time and replays and slow motion and that sort of stuff. They've got to make a call in the instant. They made a call. I wouldn't have made that call, but that's why they're better umpires than I am. Okay, thanks.